Welcome back, everybody. Going to have a look at a couple of alts here, a couple of our favourites, I suppose, and obviously we need to look at Bitcoin. And before we do all that, we're going to have a look at something a bit boring. We're basically going to look at dollar. All right. So before we look at anything, at the moment, everything's been traded with the dollar value in the back of everybody's mind. The dollar is basically has been very, very weak. I mean, because it's weak, it's allowed everything to rally. This is one of the tools used by the Fed in order to regain a lot of the losses and the crash, basically to put the crash on hold or to recover from the crash. The dollar had to be weakened, and it gives the illusion, I suppose, that stocks and commodities and other assets, including crypto, are more valuable than they actually are, because it takes more dollars to go into the same amount of asset that they had been valued at previously, giving the illusion that they're worth more, whereas actually, they have gone up in value, but they're not necessarily worth what they say they are, because, like I say, the dollar's weak. If that makes sense to you, hopefully it has. It's quite late in the evening here, so anyway, so what I'm trying to put across to you here is that everybody's really looking at the dollar, and the dollar is the thing to look at before you even look at crypto. So before we look at Bitcoin, before we look at alts, we need to look at the dollar, and we need to work out, is the dollar going to bounce from here, or is it going to continue going down? If it continues to go down and shows more weakness, it would be pretty tragic. We'll look at this on a weekly and give you a bit of perspective. But if it goes up, then everything goes down. So a bullish dollar is a bearish market. A bearish dollar is a bullish market. And at the moment, the dollar has fallen out of the sky. So this is the weekly, okay, here. So we saw the whole COVID situation, and then the dollar continued to weaken on purpose. This is done on purpose. But if we look back in time, obviously it's been worse than this in the past. And if we look back at the 2008 situation here, we're snaking around, but the dollar rallied, and this has been the level it's been at now for several years, about 4 years. But each time it came down to the level that we're at right now, we did find significant bounces from that area. So 1 up there, 2 up there. This is quite big ranges, I should mention. These are very big ranges. Bounce. Bounce, and even back at these levels here, when we finally broke back above it, it was a big bounce all the way up. And like I say, are we going to bounce from here, or are we going to make the unusual case that we will break down further than where we are right now? If we did break down further than where we are at right now, it would be massive for everything. I mean, it would be the time to buy anything and everything, stock wise, commodity wise, because down below 90 cents for a dollar is a big deal. And technically you wouldn't want to be American at the time, because what it would suggest is that you're going to feel the burn in the long run, because that's a 10%. I mean, you've seen, what it's like, obviously trading crypto. You lose 10%. I'm sure most of us, I know I have bought something and it's gone down 10%. You know how that feels. Imagine if that's everything in your entire country. Your house, your car, your phone, money in your bank, everything down 10%. It's already down 7%. And down 10%, and that will be felt in the long term. And obviously the Fed knows that, so they're being very careful at these levels. Maybe I'm not going to go into the details of the stock market. I do trade stocks and things like that. So, but this channel isn't about that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That a weak dollar means a strong crypto, and a strong dollar will mean a lot of red days, maybe even prolonged red days, months. Prolonged red months. So let's have a look then at Bitcoin very briefly. So looking at Bitcoin here on the weekly, and we can see that actually it's still looking quite good, bouncing from the center of the Bollinger Band 2 weeks in a row, and now we're above most moving averages, above this big Ichimoku cloud as well. And actually we've got most of our moving averages are facing up, which is also good. The MACD is the thing of concern, though, I should say, because if you're a believer in gaps and you want the gaps to get filled, there is a gap that needs to be filled around 9,600. Technically it was already filled. If you count the little dip that went into that $200 range, you could say that that was filled, but there's more gaps beneath that. There's a gap in the 7,000s, there's a gap down in the 3,000s, You really want those to get filled, because if you're a purist and you want this one to be filled to its full extent, this cross will likely bring it down, and you will fill at least the ones in the 7,000s as a result of that. We have this downwards trending line here, which actually is the parabolic top from the previous years, and this should hopefully hold as support if we did come down to that level, and that would basically satisfy those purists, because the CME gap would be filled, and we could still technically say that we're in a bull run territory because we're above this consolidation line, which is basically what that is. That's a consolidation line. Anyway, that's that Bitcoin on the weekly. Let's have a look at it on the daily to see where we're going from here. And we broke it above this resistance blue box, which is great. Being rejected at this current level here, just below 11,000. Probably front running a lot of those moon boys who were getting very excited about the situation. And now we're closing beneath the center of the Bollinger Band, it would appear, and that could be a rejection, and that could bring us down. And continuing with this general range that we're in, Bitcoin has been very boring recently, and actually a lot of the sentiment has I've seen it fall out of the crypto market. Alts haven't moved, Bitcoin's not really moved. It would suggest to me that just on the face of things, looking at things like that, when you're not seeing money, being distributed throughout the crypto market, it would suggest to me that there's a lot more profit taking and asset holding. Getting rid of assets and taking profit than you might think, because the volatility has not dried up, but it's very, very low. And so we could continue with this downwards. Well, it would probably be a downtrend if we did get rejected from here and test this range up again and down here again. But in all fairness, we've got the 200 exponential down beneath this blue box here. That actually would almost be the entire CME gap. This white line here represents the bottom level of the CME gap, and we've not come down to test that. So if we did have a dump and we broke down beneath here, I would expect a big buyback, and depending on the size of that wick and that buyback, it would either allow the MACD to not make that negative cross on the weekly, or if we hung around down here and the wick wasn't big enough and the buyback wasn't strong enough, we will come down. So let's have a look then at SXP. We like this coin, don't we? Some of us. I've grown to like it. So we'll extend that a little bit further out. There we go. So this is our blue box territory of support and resistance, and we are still within the range, and you can see how we were in this range before. We don't have a great deal to go by on this chart, but this is the range that we've had on the daily, and we're stuck within it still. What I would call this, however, at this moment in time, is technically I'd kind of call it accumulation. The money flow index at this level here is very interesting. This almost would be a buy. It's not an actual buy, but it's a very decent buy signal back down at these levels here. And basically that's the level that we're at right now. And if we got wicks below here, then obviously we can come back down even further. There's nothing to say that we wouldn't. The RSI, it's not looking great, but it's snaking. It's snaking its way up ever so slowly. SXP doesn't really know exactly what it wants to do. The thing is, this chart gives the illusion that these are the lower levels, but they're not. This is the Binance chart. The actual lower levels are a lot lower than this. They're what would it be, like 90% lower? This did a 10x before it even came onto Binance. So you have to bear that kind of thing in mind. It can definitely go a lot lower. We're trading on this chart because this is the most recent price action. It's also the Binance chart. This is the chart that most people have access to and we're looking at. But it could go a lot lower if it wanted to. But I don't think that this one would likely collapse below. It could go back down, 50 cents or so. Well, I'll be very, very surprised. It would take a monumental dump from Bitcoin to do that kind of thing to SXP, but it is possible. I've been watching this thing dump quite a lot recently, and it wouldn't completely surprise me, but it would shock me if it did do that. So what we're looking at here is to basically play this range, which is the only thing that we can do, and it's a bit of a crappy, boring range, but we can play it, and it's anyway down from basically the $1.66 to maybe, if you're lucky, as high as $2. It's up to you if you want to get greedy, but generally we're being supported and rejected within this blue box territory, which isn't much, about 10% or so. Let's measure that one out. Is it? Yeah, it's about 12%. But generally, you'll be looking for 10% moves on this, buying it and selling it, buying it, selling it, buying it, selling it. I wouldn't suggest margin trading this thing. Just trade it on spot. But you know, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not a financial advice, so we're still stuck within this boring range, even though it's a 10% range. We're stuck within it, and if we break above it, it will be phenomenal. It'll be great. But you know, the chart actually looks bearish. It does look bearish, and there's nothing we can do about that. All of our moving averages are basically facing down. Let's have a look at this on a lower time frame. Go to a 12-hourly. The Bollinger Bands are pinching here, so it does want to make a move. Actually, it does want to make a bigger move at some point. I would probably say that if it did do a bigger move, it's probably going to be to the up, however, despite the chart looking bearish. But we've got significant areas to be rejected from, $2.50, and as the time goes on, all the way down to this level here. So there's a lot of opportunities to be rejected. But I would say that if there was going to be a move from this, and if someone put a gun to my head and say, what direction is it going to go, give me an answer now. I don't care if you're right or wrong, just give me an answer. What do you think? I would say that the direction is probably going to be to the up. I think it's going to break out of this rather than break down. But again, you know, there's a lot depending on it. Like I said with the dollar, things depend on the dollar, and if the dollar is weak, then crypto's good, Bitcoin's strong. SXP has every chance to make that big move up to around about $2, $2.50. But any further than that, I'm not really feeling it, to be honest, because what's up here, $2.14 center of the Bollinger Band today. Let's have a look at the 4-hourly chart, see what that says. 4-hourly chart suggests that actually things will be a lot easier for us in a few days. So what are we today? We're on the 15th. Yeah, if we can survive within this range, which we're likely to do, a few more days, there'll be less resistance here. But you know, we've kind of played out this. We're playing it out still. This death cross here on the 4-hourly, still divergence taking place here. The MACD is so indecisive on the 4-hourly that there's a real battle going on here, and people are afraid to play it, and I don't blame them, because the moves to the up are great. The moves to the down could also be significant too. And again, you know, when everything's riding on this, and I have to keep bringing everyone back to this, we do have to stare at this dollar chart and work out what's going on with it. It could be the best thing you've ever seen if we do get this death cross on the weekly over the next few weeks. But if we do bounce, or if we just, I mean, it looks to me like the dollar is going to be weak on a long term time frame, but because we're at this significant level now where we could bounce, I think people are just scared to make the trades because everything depends on that, and this in itself is technically, it's been manipulated. So the odds are in the favor of the bulls because the Fed is probably going to want to keep this down. So that's enough about that. Let's go to our last coin here, which is Matic, and Matic's actually had a decent day and it's looking pretty good here on the daily MACD. That looks like it wants to make that cross. The RSI is actually very good on this one, so this one does look actually okay. This one looks the best out of all the coins that we've looked at. Still, and we've been doing this for a while, playing out this golden cross on the daily. Let's have a look, see how this chart has fared on a 12-hourly. Rejection from the... right, it looks as though we're fighting to avoid this death cross, which unfortunately looks like it's basically going to play out. So this could be it. Actually, this could be it for Matic, and we could be coming back down to this boring range. So we're back down to these low-level ranges with a lot of these coins, these altcoins. I mean, we've gone right back in time now. Basically, this range here between 18.5 to 2 cent has been one of the strongest, if not the strongest, area of support that Matic has had in its entire lifespan, and we spent a great deal of time battling our way to stay above it, and basically it looks like we're back into that situation again. I think that we're going to come back down and start playing in this range again. Unfortunately, ranges lower than this will get bought up, I would imagine, quite quickly, and because these levels for Matic are, I would probably say they're seen and almost acknowledged as way oversold, and the 2 cent area is the medium ground for everyone to have I suppose a fair stab at buying and selling. But that's what it looks like to me. It does look like, even though the chart is strong, it looks like it's met its match at this level here and probably wants to come back down again. Now obviously I could be wrong, It doesn't take a great deal to pump Matic these days, so it could do that. But what I would really like to see is us breaking above here immediately and trying to get ourselves above this range again. But that seems too far away from where we are right now. So I think the move has been made from Matic at the moment, and I think it's going to come back down again. And I think that again with all of crypto, I think the way I see this dollar moving now, when we move on to a smaller time frame of a daily, it does look like we have made a higher high, and if we can confirm a higher low, it looks like the dollar might try to push a little higher. Even though the chart is bearish, we can still have a small snaking range that moves up, and I think that is likely to be what happens. That doesn't mean that crypto will dump, but when you look at Bitcoin, if it does go down a little bit further and close on a red week, it will be a bad time, because the MACD on the weekly will cross, and it'll be a domino effect. Everything will start falling down, and alts will get hurt even more. Then they've already been hurt, and they have been hurt a hell of a lot. Some of these alts are down like 50% now, and they will be down further than that, and it all depends on the dollar. Anyway, I appreciate that was really boring, and I'm sorry about that, but if you want something a bit more jazzy and exciting, I'll leave a link for some of my other videos which I've been making, which basically are a better production value than these ones, which, let's face it, are pretty terrible. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice evening. Take it easy.